25 years living as a celibate and a recluse doesn't seem much of a life, eh? But that's how it was for me. Equally, 25 years being the caregiver to an elderly man who'd never been to school, had no name, had never celebrated a birthday. He was an eccentric, whose communication skills were more aligned to the natural world than civilized society. Yet this man possessed power of perception that was second to none. He could tune into other dimensions. He could foresee the future, and he could teach someone how to be. In a sense, he was my gift from the stars. I'm going to read part of a chapter here called Angel. I don't have time to read all of it while I'm sitting, but this first part gives you some insight into the teachings that he gave me. It also shows you how I sacrificed part of my life so I could spend time to recover myself from a troubled childhood. It's interesting. It takes you into dimensions you may not even understand. But it's my experiential reality. It tells you a lot about what's out there. It shows us infinite possibilities of what we might be within. Sometimes when I sleep, I'll be jarred awake by the sound of the phone ringing or a doorbell being pushed. There's nothing irregular about that. It happens to us all. But when you hear the ring ring or ding-a-ling go off inside your head, you can feel too close for comfort. This phenomenon started happening to me back in the mid-70s. I would hear a gentle sound like the tinkling of a wind chime or percussion triangle. The sound always occurred in the same place, in the center of my brow where the esoteric Ajna chakra, the third eye, is said to be. The third eye is also spoken of as the gate leading within to inner realms and spaces of higher consciousness. I find it intriguing that spiritual beings can communicate in this fashion. Just imagine if we could all tap into our Ajna chakra and communicate with fellow humans in this way. There will be no phone bills to pay. After 5 years of training my will to stifle unwanted thoughts, I began to reap the dividends. I still guarded against rogue utterances jumping into my head. But progressively, I found it easier to hold my attention in the present moment. And in doing so, my concentration levels increased. As the pressure to think ebbed away, it felt like I had relieved a thumping headache. My sleep improved, and I awoke refreshed and clear-headed. At this juncture, I'm recalling the process that my gift from the stars, Pat, the name I gave him because he had no name, remember? This was his teaching to me, that I had to suppress all thoughts, I had to clear my head, I had to begin again. That way I could tune into other wavelengths and start receiving messages, but more so, I could awaken my inner perception, my ability to perceive beyond the plane that we all see now. Extrasensory perception is a mind-blowing concept. It defies the conventions of credibility. But throughout the world, many people claim to have experienced a paranormal event. Here in the 21st century, consciousness is expanding. If we can accept that human beings are comprised of cellular matter, and that same cellular energy exists throughout the universe, then we can ponder the possibility that a person's consciousness can exist beyond their carbon plane of existence. Over time, who is to say that the afterlife may yet be accepted as a natural extension to life in human form? I would add a caveat. As Pat said, You'll see it when you believe it. This was all at the crux of my spiritual development. I had to be honest in my quest for knowledge. I had to keep an open mind and be receptive to knowledge from whatever source it derived from. You don't condemn people for their beliefs, Pat had said. They have their own path to follow. They make their own choices, and whether right or wrong, they will learn from their choices. There is no mistake really, because it is the mistake that provides the greatest lesson we can learn from. I should mention that during those years of virtually living like a recluse, my social ventures outside the spiritual sanctum of the address for 42 Late Spring Road were few and far between. The only girl I dated in that time happened to be a psychiatric nurse. Naturally, I didn't tell her that I was living with an angel called Pat. I'm not too sure how she would have reacted to that psychologically disturbing revelation. I took my girlfriend with me to visit my parents. We looked good together, and I think Helen and my father were duped into believing that my girlfriend and I would be a long-term item. In those days, the older generation believed that young men should be married off with kids. If not, they questioned your sexuality. At that time, the cheerful, light-hearted and merry message of being gay didn't suppose anything else. How times have changed. After a few months, my girlfriend and I went our separate ways. She wanted a serious relationship, and I didn't commit to that. Taking care of Pat and learning from him in this lifetime remained a priority for me. But it wasn't an easy decision to take. I knew I would be resigning myself to being single for a very long time. Do I really want this? No family, no children? Oh yes, I remember thinking that. For a while I wrestled with my physical and emotional needs on the one hand, my quest for spiritual enlightenment on the other. Had I been a callous type, I would have moved out and left Pat on the street. Social services can look after him. It's not my problem. Such thoughts did cross my mind, and I could have consigned Pat to the social system, but my conscience would never have allowed me to be so cruel. It would have been like crucifying Pat's spirit and leaving him for dead. I shuddered to even contemplate the notion of leaving him homeless and alone in this world. Nevertheless, in deciding to stay with Pat, I felt I had foregone my hope of finding a woman to love, cherish, and have children with. Every now and again, the sense of being depressed and alone would sap my energy. I had no inclination to do anything. I would sit in a chair for hours, just staring into space, shaking my head and bemoaning my lot in life. During those spells of melancholia, it felt like part of me wanted in and part of me wanted out of the situation. I didn't want to spend the rest of my life regretting my decision to look after Pat. I had no life of my own to lead. In a sense, I knew I had made the right choice, but it didn't feel like the right choice. Doubts dogged my mind. I wanted to feel content and happy within myself, but it wasn't happening. In the end, I went to Pat's room. I intended to broach the subject with him. As I entered his room, the clock on the wall showed 10 a.m. Pat sat in his easy chair, drinking a cup of coffee. On the table, I saw another cup. "Is that for me?" He smiled, looking amused. "Do you see anyone else?" I grinned. "Well, no, I guess not." I sat beside the table and lifted the cup. I could smell whiskey in the brew. "It's a bit early for this, isn't it?" "Well, if you don't want it." "No, that's okay, I can handle it." I grimaced at the sharp aftertaste. But as the fire burned inside me, my face flushed with heat. "How are you feeling today?" Pat asked. I shrugged. "I'm okay, just a bit unsure about things." "You mean about staying here?" Pat's anticipation ran second to none, and he had me ogling in wonder of his psychic source when he added, "There's a being here. It has a message for you." Oh? I tensed up. I had not received a message from the spirit world before, and I felt apprehensive about hearing something I might not like. As Pat's steely blue eyes bored into mine, his jaw looked to be set in granite. Would he never speak? In the strained silence, I felt small and timid. For God's sake, speak, man. At last he answered me. There'll come a time when the Mother of God will send you a daughter of the stars to love and care for. She will cheer your soul and lift your heart. You will know happiness. I couldn't help myself. Tears welled in my eyes. I had never experienced emotion of this kind. My eyes glistened wet as my words choked uncontrollably in the swollen ache of my throat. A Mother of God? How do you mean? It seemed an eternity before he answered. I know he was giving me time to compose myself. As a woman bears a child in the image of God, so she is a Mother of God. That's all he had to say, and I didn't feel inclined to press him. I truly believed what he said. He had rid any doubts. I felt at ease with the situation. I have to get on now, he said. I've got some chores to do. He meant his shoe repairs. I didn't mind. After all, he was a cobbler. As for me, my energy levels had suddenly gone hyper. Okay, I'll take the dog for a walk. The word walk had barely left my mouth before the dog Spot jumped out of her basket and leapt onto my lap, squealing in excitement. I pointed sternly at the floor. Down! 5 minutes later, Spot and I had reached the playing fields. Goalposts had been erected for the coming season, and a flock of squawking seagulls were using them for perches. I let Spot off the leash and picked up a stick. As she bounced around me, I pulled back my arm and looked up into the blue yonder. As long as I have the promise of love in my heart, then so be it, I said. Here, fetch! Spot took off. It always amused me to watch a dog chase after a stick it couldn't see. Then it twigged. Chasing after a stick it can't see. I grinned. Sounds like me. I can't see what I'm chasing either. I waited until Spot stopped in her tracks. She relied on the thud of the stick hitting the ground to trace its whereabouts. But with no sound to follow, she had nowhere to go. With her ears pricked and tongue hanging out, she looked back at me. I threw the stick high and long. Go look for it. As I watched Spot chase the flying object, I nodded to myself. I guess I'll be doing the same. Thank you for listening, and feel free to click on my link, www.getfromthestars.com. And I hope to read part 2 of this chapter, Angel, at a later sitting. Thank you.